All right, let's jump right into this explainer and radically upgrade your sales approach by installing what we're calling the Sales Booster OS. Look, if you've ever felt like you're putting in absolutely maximum effort, but your close rates are just kind of hovering at average, or if you get that terrible pit in your stomach right before a big pitch, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're fundamentally shifting how you operate in every single sales conversation you have moving forward. Think of this system as a complete operating system upgrade for your entire sales career. We're pulling from the absolute best minds in sales strategy and psychology to address literally everything, from your inner mindset all the way to your final pitch. We aren't just looking at what you should say, we're looking at how you think, how you diagnose problems, and exactly how you guide a buyer to a confident yes.
So, here is our installation menu for today. We'll start with number 1, the bug, which is presenter versus closer. Then 2, the hardware, your mental conditioning. 3, the software, the S3 method for discovery. 4, the code, which covers linguistic triggers. And finally, 5, the program, the 8-step roadmap.
Let's start with section 1, the bug, presenter versus closer. We have to identify the fatal flaw in your sales approach.
You know, so many professionals think they have a closing problem, when in reality, they actually have a process control problem. Presenters, they just dump information. They enlighten the prospect all about the amazing features and benefits, and then they kind of just sit back and hope the prospect decides to buy. But master closers are entirely different. They actively direct the prospect's attention. They don't leave the sale up to chance. They control the sequence of the conversation and intentionally cause the sale to happen. If you're just informing people, you're a presenter, but we want you to be a closer.
Moving right along to section 2, the hardware, mental conditioning, upgrading your internal locus of control.
Listen to this incredibly powerful quote from Psycho-Cybernetics. It shows us that call reluctance and performance caps are tied directly to your self-image, not just to bad leads. The truth is, you'll rarely perform consistently above the level of your own self-image. If you view yourself as a nuisance, or if you're terrified of rejection, your subconscious is going to actively sabotage your sales calls by making you hesitate or maybe making you rush through your pitch.
So drawing from the Silva Mind method and Maxwell Maltz, you can actually hardwire your confidence by following these exact steps. First, take time every day to relax into what Jose Silva calls the alpha brainwave level, which is essentially a state of relaxed alertness. Second, use the theater of your mind to mentally rehearse a totally successful call. You want to visualize the exact positive outcomes you desire instead of vividly imagining getting hung up on, which, let's be honest, is what most of us accidentally do. Third, take massive action without waiting to feel perfectly ready. And finally, when you inevitably hit an objection or a no, process it simply as data to course correct, keeping it entirely separate from your personal identity.
Okay, section 3, the software, S3 method for discovery, shifting from pitching to diagnosing.
Ruth Farrington's S3 method is absolutely crucial because it stops you from prematurely pitching and forces you to focus on diagnosing the buyer's true needs. It's broken down into 3 parts. First, you see, meaning you understand the client's deepest desires and pains completely from their perspective. Then you solve, acting almost like a detective, gathering clues to construct a bespoke strategy that pieces the whole puzzle together. And finally, you satisfy, delivering the solution with guarantees and high resonance that literally creates a customer for life. It completely reframes selling from a transaction into a deeply human diagnostic process.
Remember this phrase, because understanding that your buyer is fundamentally driven by underlying emotions and values is what truly fuels that S3 discovery phase. People decide emotionally first, and then they justify that decision with logic later. Think about it. If your prospect is buying a high-end software system, they aren't really just buying code. They're buying the feeling of security, or maybe the profound relief of not having to work weekends anymore. You have to ask the deep questions that uncover those exact feelings.
Now for section 4, the code, linguistic triggers. Let's look at the magic words that bypass resistance.
Blair Warren's brilliant framework distills human nature, and it proves that persuasion is really all about emotional alignment. If you want people to actually listen to you, you have to stop focusing on your own agenda. Instead, validate them. You encourage their dreams to increase engagement. You justify their past failures so they don't feel defensive. You allay their fears directly to create openness. You confirm their suspicions to build rock-solid trust. And you help them throw rocks at their shared enemies, like a chaotic workflow or a terrible competitor, to forge real collaboration. Hitting these 5 triggers instantly connects you with the buyer's subconscious.
Phil M. Jones calls this a magic phrase, and for good reason. When you get a really harsh objection, like, wow, your price is way too high, your immediate instinct as a presenter is to jump in and defend your value. Don't do that. Instead, gently invite the prospect to reveal their true underlying concern by simply asking, "What makes you say that?" It forces them to unpack their logic, which almost always uncovers the real problem, transforming what could have been a defensive debate into a collaborative diagnosis.
And these two simple words, they can instantly shift a buyer's entire mindset. Saying, "just imagine," moves a prospect right out of their current hesitation and forces their brain to vividly picture a positive future outcome. Just imagine how smoothly things will be running in 6 months' time once you've implemented this. It's future pacing at its absolute finest, tapping directly into that emotional brain we talked about just a minute ago.
Finally, Section 5, the program, the 8-step roadmap. This is how you execute the repeatable master closer sequence.
Looking at Mike Kaplan's sequence, notice how incredibly late the actual presentation happens. Master closers start with an introduction to establish control. Then, they rigorously qualify the prospect, so nobody is wasting their time. Next, they discover the problem. But right here is the secret sauce. Step 4, they sell the problem. Before they ever pitch a single feature of their product, they get the prospect to fully agree that the problem is severe and urgently needs fixing. Only then do they present their solution, confirm the prospect actually wants it, and then confidently go in for the close. It's a highly controlled step-by-step path.
As Mike Kaplan's equation clearly shows, your total sales are a product of your lead quality, your hard work, and your closing skill. Now, while getting better leads and hustling harder will obviously always matter, your closing skill, your ability to run this exact OS we've unpacked today, is the ultimate multiplier. It is what allows you to maximize the revenue from the leads and the hard work you're already putting in.
So, let's recap. We've upgraded your mental hardware to banish call reluctance once and for all. We've installed the S3 software to deeply diagnose emotional needs. We've written the linguistic code to completely bypass resistance, and we've mapped out the exact 8-step roadmap to keep you in control of the process. After fully installing the Sales Booster OS today, the only question left for your very next meeting is this: are you just going to present information and hope for the best, or are you going to step up, take control, and close?